Are you excited about the news around CookieRun's Nationals being open and winning that free trip to Seoul, but have no clue where to start? Well, don't worry, because in today's video, I'm going to give you 6 different competitive CookieRun deck lists to get started, and one of them is a instant I win the game condition if you are lucky enough to pull it off. So we are going to go into those 6 different decks that I mentioned, one for each color otherwise, and give you a little bit of how they play and kind of what are the key cards to look forward to. So if you're ready to gear up for this competitive season, then let's dive in. Now, up first, I do want to mention 2 different pieces of news that people might not be aware about if you haven't been following the game too closely. But first and foremost is that this is a combined set. So our set 2 here in North America is actually BS3 and BS4 combined. That's important for 2 different reasons. One, yes, you can mix them and there are cards that overlap, but sometimes it does feel like there's a strategy that was all built in one set that isn't really reflected all that well in the later set. So for the sake of today's video, I'm just using some example lists I have found that have won tournaments over in Southeast Asia, and those will be our starting points for today. Now, the second part that I want to highlight is that, yes, there is going to be a CookieRun simulator, thanks to our friend Pavel, sometime in the near future. At the time of this recording, I cannot promise a date or anything like that, but it is still very exciting news, especially for those who want to get in a little extra testing, or maybe you don't have a locals or it's too far away to go regularly, right? And you don't want to play webcam games. An online simulator is going to be great for filling those gaps in those that want to play. So there's a lot of excitement going around into the national event. And again, this is not a sponsored video or anything. I just actually like this game and like what they're doing. So I figured, hey, I'd throw up a video on my main channel talking about the different lists. And again, I have a purple deck that I'll be playing at Nationals. So, I look forward to seeing other people that are going to be going to that event. But without further ado, let's actually dive into these various lists. And we're going to be starting it off with the, well, namesake of the set itself, but the Age of Heroes and Kingdoms. Yes, this game is not color locked by any means, but you'll often notice that a lot of the attacks require you to be able to support or pay an energy of that color. With Age of Heroes and Kingdoms, it is a setup deck that you can effectively assemble Exodia, or I guess 2 Exodias, because you need effectively 10 pieces in total, but you want to have one of each of the ancient cookies and their Soul Jam counterparts to activate that instant win condition. Now, this, again, did technically win a smaller shop tournament, so it is definitely going to be good for that and something you can build and test out. But you'll notice at the heart of it, this is a blue and green style of deck, which I'll talk about those various points in a little bit more detail as we get to their more monocolor style of decks. But ultimately, this is going to be a control style of deck that wants to ramp up into your cards with being able to have the Swan Feather, which gets extra cards from the top of your deck and throw them into your support, increasing the likelihood that you'll eventually meet the condition of the stage that you're trying to resolve, and then otherwise just has a lot of extra draw and filtering thanks to the blue counterpart. So it is nice to note the one cookie that I will call out here, because it is one of the 2 that you could actually attack with as well, but is pure vanilla cookie, because it has the option to heal itself, and it works very well with Divine Light Crystal to make sure that your opponent just can't kill it for that attack. It can be a very sticky level 3 that you can play and sticks onto the board long enough while you're looking for those other pieces. Now, keep in mind, you're only running 2 of each of the respective pieces, so you do need to be mindful that unless you see that second copy, you're often just going to put it into your support area to be safe about it, because if you don't get that win condition, well, it can feel pretty bad. Now, there are going to be some other games where you just are naturally playing a good old game of CookieRun, and your green and blue cards are doing enough of a carry that sometimes you will go, oh, I guess I win in this case, and that's totally fine as well. But I do want to stress that, at least from a overall how you should be approaching this deck, if you really want to lean into the stage, right, it is going to be more that instant win victory style of play. Again, there are some opportunities for us to win naturally through the green and blue cards that we have, but all the other cards in the deck are naturally going to be going towards that win condition, which again can limit the amount of resources we have to play some of our other supporting cards. Now, the last thing, of course, to mention here too is that the sherbet cookie here in the middle, this is the one that recycles your level 1 and allows you to draw an extra card. So this is really important for just getting a couple extra of those draws, while also damage denying your opponent or break denying your opponent to draw out the game a little bit longer. So I won't go too in depth about the actual battle strategy and how the various matches might play out, But in general, at any time they're able to deny your opponent a break, as you might imagine, is going to be pretty good. So we do have 2 of the Sherbet Cookie that allows us to save our level 1s. And then again, drawing us a card is always nice. It's also important to note here, because he does have the double blue and 1 of any color for the support. This is also another one of those cards that you can more often attack with in this style of deck. So this is definitely a list that's going to take a little bit more refinement, but if you're someone who wants to do the more oops, I win strategy and surprise your opponent that way before they can aggro you down and get your assemble your Exodia get online, this is definitely a list to check out. So moving on from there, now we're getting into more of the traditional style of decks, as I'll call them, but we have the mono red, and red in general is going to be all about your just low to the ground. I don't care what you're doing. I'm just trying to break your cookies as fast as possible, get the damage out there, and win that way. One of the key cards that we can look forward to is going to be the giant cherry bomb here at the bottom, which is going to deal 3 damage directly to a cookie. Now, there is a lot of interaction in this game, both in the trap step, which means you can reduce the damage your opponent's cookie is attacking into you, as well as some other cards that allow you to, again, save them, like the Sherbet Cookie we talked about previously and denying the break that way, or other cards that take it from your battle area into your support area, things of that nature. So one of the ways that we can get around that and making sure that our opponent does not have a option to interact, right, of course, is going to be things that often deal enough damage to straight break the cookie. Or in the Dragon Cookie, as an example, is that it just has a when played effect to break a level 1 cookie. And against the more control style of decks that are naturally going to have a lot more of those level 1s, this is going to be a card that just comes into play, breaks something immediately, and then still does a respectable 3 damage for 3 red with the extra option of doing a ping damage. In at least set 1 and set 2, we've seen a lot of trap cards that either deal -2 or -3 attack for a card for the turn. So anytime that we have the extra instance of damage built into these cards, it's going to be very, very strong. And to be fair, this was largely limited in the first set to red, but honestly now every color has at least some option of either extended damage or breaking. However, red is still going to be the champion of, well, just burning your opponent's cookies up. So if you are someone who is a more aggressive player and loves the all-in mono red strategies, then this is a great list to start with. Moving on from there, we have green, which is all about the support shenanigans. This is a deck that wants to ramp up and chip away at your opponent's cards little by little. In terms of, once it gets there, it can definitely do it. But in terms of the deck that wants to do the most damage now actually going into set 3, set 4 combined, is green, because we have so many ways to loop it back with the mischievous ladybug dealing the damage. But the Guardian Tree Blessing, the stage that you get to run here at the bottom, is actually just so crazy good. The fact that you always get to use your support as like a second hand. The games that you see this card and your opponent is not using the stage removal, you feel so far ahead just because of all the extra options that you get to then have access to. So we previously had the Ladybug and was looping it that way, but now thanks to the Sugar Swan Cookie as well as Wind Archer Cookie, we have a lot more ways to do ping damage and then do that turn after turn. The one thing I do want to add here as well for the Wind Archer Cookie is that its on play allows you to move one of your opponent's cards into their support area, which can be a very strong effect for some of those more sticky cookies that are otherwise causing you a lot of trouble. So this is a deck that wants to revolve around having a very high support area and doing a lot of things out of your support. So if you are more excited for the ramp style of strategies while doing a little bit of extended damage, then definitely look forward to the Sugar Swan Cookie and Wind Archer getting us some extra damage. And then also just Wind Gem being a very nice one for the maximum amount of damage that we can ultimately get. Moving on from there is my favorite is now the new purple deck in set 3, 4 combined. And this one was a bit interesting. Purple in set 1, and while it's set 1 and 2 combined, was either all focused on filling up your opponent's trash for value or a very heavy discard strategy, but it did lack a few more controlling pieces. And now with this next set, we actually have a ton of build variety in the deck for both discarding plans, milling plans, and why I like Moonlight Cookie so much is that she just has 6 HP, which is really important. But we also have a lot of cards now in purple that line up into more of that break control strategy. Milky Way Cookie is a surprisingly very strong card that gets us the damage, gets us the break denial, and then we also still have things like Starfruit Cookie, which could be another way to then make sure we're not giving our opponent the extra value in breaking one of our level 2s, and instead cycling through our cards that way. So the one thing I will add here is that in this game, you are limited to your 2 cookies on the field once they are both in play, unless you have ways to remove them, which purple does. So this is one that is definitely feels a lot more control focused, and it's very interesting because this deck feels a lot like the blue deck in set 1, which I loved. So I'm actually swapping colors in this set because this plays a lot more like a blue deck from a controlling standpoint, again, based on the previous one. So if you love drawing extra cards, milling out your opponent, or just trashing their cookies straight up and saying, hey, you better have another cookie, because if you didn't watch our previous videos, if you don't have a cookie to play at any time, sorry, you lose. And purple is really good at taxing your hand and making sure that, hey, we're going to keep you honest, and especially against some of the green strategies, which are very high on their item and trap and just basically non-cookie count, that if you go into up against a green player and you have a more discard and trash style focused purple deck, it is going to be very difficult for them to stay in the game. Now, the one thing I do want to give a shout out here to as well is the Crunchy Chip Cookie with the Soul Jam and just getting a ton of extra damage for a very low cost. This is a card that eventually got limited in the rest of the meta, and the rest of the world, I guess I should say at this point, and we will have to wait and see where it goes in the future. I personally just ordered them because I'm not expecting any changes between now and Nationals if they didn't already confirm it, but of course we'll have to wait and see where some of these go. But overall, I do think the meta is in a pretty good spot, but I am hoping that at least this, honestly, this is the list I'm starting with. Like, me as a player, this is the list I'm using going forward. I think actually, sorry, I have one less Wind Archer in mine and maybe like one other card that was different, but generally that's just because I don't have it, right? So I will probably pick up another Wind Archer or 2, but overall, I think this is a very solid purple list to start with as well. Moonlight Cookie just giving us the extra way to fill our opponent's graveyard, which can line up very well into our purple Wind Archer Cookie that then can be a 5 damage effect for 4. You'll learn about this later, but if you're hitting for 5 damage in this game, that is an insane amount to hit for, and you are going to be getting through some damage. But Wind Archer here in purple also has the same nice removal effect to it. This one is limited to level 3 and on play with paying 1 purple, but it can still help remove some of those more problematic cookies. So if you are someone, again, who likes more discarding and controlling decks, then definitely look forward to purple. Now, blue is a very interesting deck, actually, going into the next set. And this one, I, again, had fully just copied from one of the tournament winning lists, or I think this one got second, if I remember correctly. But blue has effectively 2 very different, I guess 3 technically, strategies that you can go into. One of the ones that I covered in the sponsored video with the Madeline Cookie is all about, and I should say, and a Strawberry Crepe Cookie, like these 2 next to each other side by side. There is a very large focus on a level 2 strategy in blue that gets extra damage or gets extra value if you have a higher count of level 2s in your deck. Beyond that, there is also the very heavy discard blue package, which I really do like, even if it is a little bit too heavily reliant on the stage card that just says I am constantly discarding cards and drawing extra cards per turn as long as I have the stage. And that deck has a surprising amount of burn in it. However, the one card for blue that we all have to talk about and acknowledge up front, similar to the Crunchy that we just talked about, is the Sherbet Cookie that deals extra damage and has a 2-for-3 effect while also dealing extra damage. Because this deck is so support efficient at what it wants to be doing, you will get up to 5 or 6 support and then just stop playing cards into your resource and just drawing 2 every turn instead, because so much of what we want to be doing only costs 2 or 3 per attack, and then you hold up like 1 trap on your opponent's turn. This is a deck that can effectively burn a lot of damage for very little resources, which is why the Sherbet Cookie was eventually restricted, or I guess full out banned if I remember correctly. So for now, it is one of the promo cards that comes in the box toppers. I have 2 right now. I'm going to finish this deck as well. I'm going to change a few things to not be so on the level 2 package. I'm actually be doing the Sherbet Cookie with the level 3, but I couldn't find any tournament lists where the discard blue did well. So that bums me out a little bit, but something I'll have to just wait and test. So I didn't want to include a list in this video because it, well, defeats kind of the entire purpose of this video so far. But just know that that exists out there. And if I have success with it, I'll post it on Twitter or something. So you can look for the updated list there. But hopefully I find something, because I also pulled that SUR and I just think that the discard package could be a lot more enjoyable. And then last but not least, we have yellow with, yes, one of the item cards was cut off because I just ran out of room. And this is, well, the wallet deck. If you love running all the URs that you possibly could and having the most expensive deck in the room, then look no further than yellow, my friends, featuring 4 Stormbringer and 4 Timekeeper Cookie. These cards are just nasty together because, well, we talked about it previously, but breaking stuff for effectively free is really good. But then also on top of that, yellow is all about the break area manipulation and getting to choose which cards you're bringing in and out of it to rebuy them or get extra effects, or like the golden cheese cookie can just heal itself for a turn and just deal 4 damage out of nowhere if it is stuck in your life. And again, that is a hard once per game, but still a very strong effect to watch out for. So this is definitely one that will be very taxing, and one that I would recommend play testing first to see if it is your preferred play style. But yellow is another one of the more leaning towards the control strategies. But again, thanks to the extra break that you get with this deck in particular, and because you're building up your break zone to have a bunch of 2 and 3 ofs so that you can eventually make use of the cyborg cookie to get the extra damage, it can surprise your opponents out of nowhere. I mean, Stormbringer Cookie is just he is that guy, right? Being able to deal the 2 damage split, as you'll find out as you're testing this format, splitting damage is very, very good. And Stormbringer just does so much for being a UR and just being a level 3/5. Like, I really wish he would have had 4 HP instead. I definitely think that would have been a little bit more fair, but generally speaking, a lot of the cards you'll notice are level 3 and 5 HP, and that's pretty consistent across the board, unless they have some plus or minus effect, or maybe they do a point less of damage and they get +1 HP, like the purple card that we talked about earlier on. So this one is definitely going to be for more the control people and those that love flipping cards and getting to have those sometimes battle deciding factors. You know, being honest, if you get the heal at the right time and you're able to stay in the game because of it, yellow just does that so well, right? It is the color that wants to heal up, giving your cards extra HP to try to get even more value out of the flips. I mean, it can go the distance. So if you are someone who loves using your life as a resource, quite literally in this case, then definitely look forward to playing the yellow deck. And with that, my friends, that is the end of the 6 CookieRun Braverse deck list that I would recommend starting with. Of course, having to give a special shout out here at the very end to the Age of Heroes and Kingdoms being the alternate win con in the game. And if you know me and how long that I've been covering TCGs, I just love seeing this at any time that we get some type of oops, I win the game strategy. So while it might not be the most competitive list out of all the ones that we've covered today, it is certainly the most fun in my opinion. So are you looking forward to going to nationals, or are you just hearing about this game for the first time? Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And this will be the last video that I get out before I take a little bit of a break before I go work on some side projects for my secondary channel. But I will be uploading more CookieRun meta thoughts, deck lists, what have you, over on Twitter. So if you are interested in kind of following the meta and how things unfold, definitely make sure to follow me over there. But otherwise, again, thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you next time in the next video. But until then, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.